My grandpop used to say there's a suburb of Scranton called Manuka. He said when the guy at Manuka is out of work, it's an economic slowdown. When your brother-in-law is out of work, it's a recession. When you're out of work, it's a depression. Well, it's a depression. It's a depression for millions of Americans through no fault of their own.
But fear not, by evening, Joe Biden was at a fundraiser for Arlen Inspector where he said his vote helped stave off a depression. So it just took a few hours.
Nothing like talking up the economy.
We're all good now. Kevin Madden, Republican strategist, with us. Now let's start with this poll. You saw the numbers on the public option that's gotten a big headline, 57% support. Does it do anything to change the politics on the Hill?
I don't think so, and I usually never bring notes, but today I brought notes. There's three. This is a very good poll. It's very exhaustive. It dives deep into a lot of the data that and the different opinions right now. But three things. First is options are unobjectionable. The way that this question was framed was, and that's the second point, is the framing of the question. It's provided so that to a lot of the voters, so that you have this very unobjectionable policy of, well, if you can't afford it, and if it's relegated to states building their own public option plan, are you for it? So I think,
and that's actually where we see it grow far beyond that 57% number.
Right. So we start to see it grow. So it's one of those things where Republicans, Democrats, and Independents are even are favorably disposed towards it. But the last part is the most important, which is in the poll they also talked about people's fear of the size of government, that government has too big of a role. So if you were to reframe the question saying that, do you think if a public option were to in any way affect the private plan that you have right now or drive up costs, then I think people would again find a public option objectionable. And many of the senators that are going to be a key vote on getting a public option or not getting a public option are coming from states where that size of government and that cost issue is what's driving the debate on health care reform.
Clearly, the Republicans are better off now, I would suggest, as a party than they were at the time of Obama's inauguration or even a couple months into his term. You see that in fundraising numbers. You see that certainly in the ability for the recruitment that goes on with the congressional committees in getting solid candidates to run in these 2010 midterms. And, obviously after two big Democratic elections in 06 and 08, history also suggests that this 2010 would be a Republican year. Yet, the numbers in this poll, it's still astounding to me. 19% of the country thinks that the Republicans in Congress have the solutions for the future for the country. That compares to 49% who are confident in Obama's ability to solve those problems. And then party ID, 20% of those polled in this country identify with the Republican Party. That's the lowest in 26 years.
Right.
Is this, as Rick said at the top, not so much a period in which voters are flooding over to the Republican Party, but they're just not going anywhere right now? They're sort of hanging.
Well, I think that's right. I think you see a large group of independents. I think more, people are fleeing both parties right now and identifying themselves as independents, and that larger swath of persuadables that are going to be the ones that are key to either success or failure on policy, as well as at the ballot box, have parked themselves in this kind of observation mode right now, and they're continuing to watch. One of the things that we have to be very careful of as a party, the Republican Party, we can't fool ourselves into thinking that that the struggles that the Democrat Congress and Obama are having are ultimately going to add up to victory for us. We have now the other thing is we have time on our side. We still have the rest of this year and all of next year to really modernize our agenda, modernize our message, and go out and build that vast center-right coalition of independents, Republicans, and conservative Democrats who are anxious about an overreach by Democrats on policy and who think that on major issues like spending, like the deficit, that Washington under Democratic control has spun out of control.
And we talk about this. Well, look, you just want to put this number up there. This is the generic ballot number for 2010. Democrats have a 20-point advantage, 59 to 39 in that generic ballot.
I think that should be 51-39, should it not? Anyway,
I
think we may have that
Republicans
wrong there.
I want to ask you briefly about Afghanistan. Karzai does as the administration hopes. Does this provide does this allow the administration to reframe this discussion, to now have this endpoint, to know there's an election that's looming a few weeks off?
Well, I think so, but I think the greater worry is that they're using this as an escape hatch, that if they don't get the election results that they want and they don't have a stamp of approval on a government that is to their liking, that then they can use that to frame up the decision on Afghanistan troop levels. But I do think that that this is that the administration is definitely going to use it to try and reframe the debate. But again, they've got constituencies outside the American public in the Pentagon and Capitol Hill, both allies and opponents that really want to see a decision. They wanted to see a decision, right?
Indeed. All right, Republican strategist Kevin Madden, thanks for
Great
being
to be
here
with you as always.
Thank you very much. That does it for this edition of Top Line. Click us on again tomorrow.
It's twitter.com/the note. Keep that conversation going. And Kevin, were you dying like me when Girardi went to the pen?
13 out, 6 pitches.
And then we get the hook.